Hi, this is a video from Melinda Hedden, a viewer. I do apologize, Melinda, if I get your last name wrong, um, who was asking about timers. These are 24-hour manual timers. Now, there is a huge difference when it comes to manual timers. This timer is for 30-minute increments. This is 15. So if you're looking for something that kicks off and on numerous times a night, and only running a short amount of time during that period, this would be the timer for you. I also want to discuss with you about plug types. Now, it depends on the size of your plug, which one of these timers will be right for you. Now, here I have a light fixture. It's just like the one I have up there. I apologize. Of course, it's much easier to plug something in the front than in the bottom. Now, if you're using small plugs like this, something like this will work fine for you. But your plugs may be really close together there. Now, suppose you're using a larger plug. Let me get this. Sorry about this. I'm trying to do this with one hand here. Suppose you have a larger plug. Does it make a difference? Absolutely. Now, this is a replacement end on our ice machine here. When I did get it, the ground was broke off, and so I had to replace the cord. So if you have something this size or larger, watch. You're not using that second plug. Now, let me get this off. Energy usage. We're going to talk about that real quick. Let me get this plug out of the way. I don't need it. We're going to talk about power usage. Now, this timer, like I said, they're both 24-hour timers. This is more or less a military 24-hour setting. It goes through 1 through 24. Right there. This one's much easier to understand. It actually has AM and PM. There's a huge difference in these two timers, though. This, for every button you have down. Now, I suggest using a pen or a toothpick to push your buttons down. For every one you have down, this is a half hour on this timer. It goes no lower than a half hour. So if you have it on timer here, one down is a half hour. Now let me get one on here. And for every one that's down on this is 15 minutes. So if you have an appliance or something that you want to run, and always make sure they're set on timer. This is timer. This is just plug straight through, pass through. This is timer. And this is outlet on, which is a pass through. So if you have an appliance you want to run 4 or 5 times a night for short amounts of time, this would be a better timer for you, considering it only runs 15 minutes at a time for every pin that's down. I have one pin down. But this one runs for a half hour. So there's a huge difference when you're looking at manual timers on the runtime. Also, this has a single light that is not very bright to let you know there's power. Let's see if I can turn off some lights here. I don't know if you can see that. It is not very bright. So it uses very little amount of power running this one. This one has 2 lights, almost like night lights, that stay on all the time as long as the timer itself is plugged in. There's one. There's 2. So when it comes to power draw and power usage, this one draws a little bit more power just because of the lights. Now both these timers are probably made in Mexico, or not Mexico, excuse me, China. They're both 24-hour mechanical timers. They're rated at 125 volt, both at 60 hertz, 15 amps. Now this one is rated for 1,250 watts. Now this one says the resistance is 1,875 watts, but its tungsten, which is basically this here, is 1,250 watts. So they're basically made the exact same way, except for where the plugs are located. And this is a half-hour timer with dual lights. This is it's a 15-minute timer. For every pin that's down is 15 minutes with a single light. So once you figure out your military time, or however you want to set this up, let's say I wanted it to run 3 times a night before daylight hit, and I just stuck it like here. You know what? Let's go. Let's get that right there where that timer is fixing to go off. So let's say I'm going to use the light part as nighttime, which would make sense. I would absolutely be using this part as nighttime, but let's say I wanted it going off 3 times a night. I would take and I would push 3 pins down at various places. Okay. Now that's 3 pins and only 3 pins. That means this timer will come on 3 times a night and run for 15 minutes. Now if you're running something like a chest freezer, if you have the battery capacity, that is one thing you need to look at, is your battery capacity. I would run this probably 4 or 5 times a night for 15 minutes at a time, just to make sure your freezer stays frozen. And unlike this one, that's a half hour. So compared to this one, so 3 times at 15 minutes would be 45 minutes. So if I put 3 of these down, and always use a pen or a toothpick, I'm just going to put 3 down, and that's all. So 3 of these down. 1, 2, 3. Compare 45 minutes. This will be an hour and a half. So getting the timer you need, the right timer, is really difficult. And make sure, even if you have pins down, make sure your pins around it are always pulled up. See, that's a little bit down. I have a pin down, but that one's a little bit down. Make sure they're all the way up, except for the timer pin you want down. So they're pretty easy to use. Now both these come with, like I said, a pass-through, more or less. Now if I turn this from here to here, the timer's not working. The outlet is on full time. Both outlets on the bottom will be full time power. Same with this. This is for timer. Right up here is a pass-through. There is a difference when it comes to weight. This one is a little bit lighter, but personally I would rather use something like this. Like I said, the plugs will depend on how well it works for you, the size of your plugs. Now this is a medium plug, it's not a large plug. So if I had 2 items, I could not plug 2 things if I had to plug this size, because it covers the other half of the plug. And this is on. So if I went over here and hit that, Now I got to turn that off. I do not have water in it. And this plug sticks out a little bit over the timer. Unlike this timer has a pretty good distance away from your wall. Now if I plug this in, yeah, see, I have no water in here, so I can't really run this. Alright, that's the difference between the timers. You can find timers that are different than these, different prices, different settings. But if you're trying to run something like a chest freezer multiple times a night, and if you don't want it run for a half hour at a time, this would be more or less a timer for you. Once again, if you use this for like AM, go from like 6 and just count hours, then you can even mark little numbers on here like a clock if you want to, or make it something like this. That's up to you. While this one is easier to use as far as the settings, this arrow here points up, and whatever you set that for, that's the time you're gonna have. That's the time you need to set. So, like I said, if the pins are up, the timer is off. So if all your pins are up, make sure you have a bypass. Your timer set for bypass, and that is timer. That's outlet on or bypass, and that is timer. And like I said, use a pin or a toothpick to get everything set and situated. And it's kind of dark in here right now. I apologize if the video is not that good. Remember, a lot of these timers are different, and you can see how these are real easy to be pushed down. And this is for Melinda Hedden. Once again, I apologize if I got your name wrong. But that's it. I hope this helps you out, Melinda, and you have a good day. Bye.